Welcome back, everybody, to Paranormal New Normal presents Paranormal Prime Time. I'm your host, Jeremy, as always, joined, of course, by the faithful Malachi himself.
How's everybody doing? Why do I look so fucking far away today?
I
Like
noticed that too,
right
and I
up on
figured,
my phone.
hmm,
That's
it works.
weird.
Because we're in 1080p, so we're in the future, baby. But
Okay. Yeah, I'm like fucking 2.5 feet away from my phone. That's crazy.
but yes, let's get this show on the road. 'Cause we got two good episodes to talk about tonight, and we are
Yes,
getting
we
closer.
do.
We're getting closer to something great. So I want to get this on the road here. And of course, that means Scott gets to start off, folks, or Malachi,
Okay, season
whatever.
2, episode 19, Folsom Prison Blues. Named
And
after a Johnny Cash song, of course.
we just fucking ruined it. I was gonna play with the audience a game of guess if you can guess the theme of what both episodes are titled after.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. But writer was John Shiban,
Yeah, man.
which I'm pretty sure that guy's been a writer before. I know I've seen
Hmm.
his name so far. And then it was directed by Mike Rowell, which I don't know if I've seen him. But I watched this episode and then I checked out the Supernatural fandom wiki, and I thought the Supernatural fandom wiki for this episode was like they just needed to get it done. It was like the most less in-depth review of an episode I've seen so far, which I thought was worth note.
Well, this
But
episode was pretty simple.
yeah. And like I said, in the fan wiki, there were no like fuck ups or anything like any really mentions or crazy shit going on in the end. So won't be a whole lot of that. But this starts off with a dude who I know I've seen play like Satan or Lucifer in other TV shows around the similar time, but he's a prisoner. Do you know who the guy is?
I don't know his name, so I have no idea who played him.
I swear to God, back in like 2000, my wife and I were just together. It had to be like 2004. They had this like TV show that ran like 7 episodes, like a TV made for movie TV thing where this guy played as the devil. But I don't remember the fucking name of the show. I'm getting off topic. That dude's one of the prisoners, and then we watch another prisoner while this guy's like mopping or sweeping or whatever get killed by something supernatural. And then we cut to Sam and Dean, and I don't even know what I wrote there. They're trying to land themselves in prison to pay back a debt that their father owes to one of his buddies from Vietnam. And this dude's name's Deacon, and he's at the prison, and he says that they had just reopened an old cell block, and now all of a sudden guards and prisoners are just like dying. So he knows that John and Sam and Dean are into all the supernatural shit, calls them. So they got to land themselves in prison. And as soon as they land themselves in prison, which I don't understand how they like, go from getting arrested, no trial, straight into this prison. It's not typically how things work, right? First, you're gonna go to county jail and the
It's
whole shooting
it's
match.
it's a TV
But
show.
yes, for the sake of time, they go directly to this prison, and that's when they find out that their buddy from the FBI, Henriksen, which I'm is it Henriksen? They kept saying that in the fan wiki, but I think it's Hendrickson. He shows up and he's been chasing them all the way from the bank
Bank.
fucking thing they had going on there. And he knows like all these crimes they're linked to. So he is like got a hard on to lock Sam and Dean up for the rest of their life.
It,
And
it it amazes me how stupid he is that he doesn't think there's more going on here than there is.
yeah. And that's kind of what their public defender thinks, right? Like their public defender starts questioning Hendrickson about their guilt because she's called like the police who were involved in some of these other crimes they supposedly committed and other witnesses, and all of them say that Sam and Dean had saved them, but they still have the charges for all these things. So she doesn't really know what's going on, but she doesn't know if they're guilty either. Um, so as soon as they get in the actual prison, it seems like Dean is like making the best out of this fucking experience, like he's at Disneyland or something. Like he's
Oh yeah, it's
super
something he looked forward
excited to be there.
something he looked forward to his whole life.
Yeah, I guess he watches all the Steve McQueen, Great Escape, and all the other fucking prison movies, and he's like fucking tickled pink to be in there. And then he starts a fight with this dude, and the dude doesn't want any. He goes back and gets his friends, and then they start fighting, and this prick cop ends up hitting Dean, breaking it up, and they send him to solitary. And while Dean's in there, Sam goes off like researching and finds out that there was a serial killer named Mark Moody who used to live in that cell block that just got reopened up. And he might have like some bodily fluid or some shit there that's tying the ghost to that cell block. Meanwhile, Sam or Dean is in the solitary with the guy he was fighting with, and the guy he was fighting with is Dean's like trying to talk to him. This dude gets ganked by the ghost. So um, that happens. Then we cut to Dean playing cards with all the prisoners, and he's winning cigarettes and like fucking clearing the table of all their cigarettes. And this is when Sam says, "You don't even smoke," and Dean says, "Well, this is the currency of the land." Dean uses his cigarettes to buy lighter fluid, and then Dean picks a fight with like the biggest dude in the prison, Tiny. And while Dean's in this fight, Sam slips off. He steals some salt, and
Do
then
you
he goes and, huh?
did do you know who Tiny really is?
I know I've seen him. I don't know.
He's their personal bodyguard in real life.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
See, that's in the fan wiki. I didn't even see that. Did it say it in there?
yeah.
Ah, I didn't even notice that. I
Well,
don't know if mine.
if and the one I use, I'll just send you a link so you can freaking make sure it's the same one. But
Okay, so like I said, while that happens, Sam slips away, he steals some salt, he fucking burns that old mattress of the serial killer, and then it cuts to Dean and Tiny talking about their feelings in the infirmary. And this is when Dean gets attacked by this fucking spirit and realizes it's a woman, not the guy Sam went after. And he throws salt from his pocket. He's able to escape, but then the ghost goes and kills Tiny. So then they find out that the ghost is actually an old prison nurse when Dean gets out of the infirmary. It's an old prison nurse that used to kill the prisoners until she was killed during a prison riot. Um, so Dean goes and he meets with his defense. This is like right when they're about to switch him to like supermax prison. Meets with her defense. His defense, Marna or Martha or whatever the fuck her name is. She's like going into all this shit about his case, and he's like, no, 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 no. Hey, I just need you to investigate this old nurse from the prison. Can you do that for me? Like, I don't really give a fuck what happens to me, but I really need to know about this fucking nurse. And she like denies him that request or whatever. Dean gives him the
her,
name. Then
her name is Mara. Mara.
Mara. Okay. And so then we cut to Sam and Dean back together, and they start fighting because Dean wants to stay there to finish the case, and Sam's like, dude, we got to get out of here. We're like in prison. This is the sketchiest shit we've ever done. And that prick guard sees them fighting. The guy who keeps this will be the third time he fucking beats the shit out of Dean. He beat the shit out of him in the first fight, the one with Tiny, and now this one with Sam and Dean. And the prick cop or prison guard turns out to be Deacon. So, they go through all the hugging and your dad was great and we're just paying back the debt and thank you, Deacon, blah, 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 blah. Deacon ends up giving him the letter. The defense attorney actually did research the lady. They tell Deacon that, they haven't taken care of it yet, but now that they have this letter, they'll go burn the corpse, salt and burn the corpse. And then Dean gets to hit Deacon in the face. Payback time, right? And Deacon tells him, make sure it looks real. So Dean hits him in the face. They escape. The fucking Impala's like right next to the prison, which I thought was weird. And they hightail it to the cemetery.
Deacon put the Impala there, is my guess.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. I don't know. You'd think they would have had another car that they took, but whatever. It's a fucking TV show. Okay, so now Hendrickson is fucking pissed off. He's interrogating fucking Deacon. Then he goes and interrogates the defense, Mara, and he finds out that she gave them the info about this prison nurse and the cemetery of where she's buried. So Hendrickson and the FBI rush to it. So then we go cut to the ghost is fucking up Deacon in the bathroom. The boys are digging in the cemetery, and all at the same time, the FBI is driving as fast as they can to get to the cemetery. Who gets the who first? Dun dun dun! The boys burn and salt the corpse. Deacon is saved, and the FBI is at the wrong fucking cemetery. So this is where Dean says, now we're really fucked. We got to go deep this time. And this is when Sam says, and I quote, yeah, we need to join the Houthis in Yemen, Allah Akbar, death to America. And
He
then
doesn't. He doesn't say
he,
Allah Akbar, death to America.
I'm pretty sure this is verbatim quote. He says, yeah, we need to join the Houthis in Yemen, Allah Akbar, death to America, and then they drive off in the Impala.
He says
Great
the first line.
episode.
He says the first line. You're fucking
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, what would you rate it?
I don't know, man. I would definitely give it at least a 4, if not a 4.5. It was short, simple, but it was consistent, good. Kept
I mean, I would honestly give it like a 3.8. It was good, but it wasn't that entertaining. It was like I kind of like I remember this one. I remember this episode, and I just remember the first time not being that impressed either because it was kind of like a stupid ghost episode to me. Like it was. I mean, I like the ghost episodes when they're good, but this is just a stupid ghost episode. Like the whole point of it was that like it's another nudge towards the whole thing that's to happen with the FBI eventually. So I get that it's building, but still, it's just. I mean, it's what leads. It's what makes Hendrickson start to think about the case after what the defense attorney says. But it's
now Hendrickson's got like a super hard on for Sam and Dean. Like
I
they
mean,
are fucked.
it just like it could have been a better episode. It really could have. I mean, and the fact that they didn't even play the Johnny Cash song in that episode at all. I mean, I'm sure they couldn't afford it, but still.
I think that was the same thing with they named something after a Led Zeppelin song a couple of shows ago, and they couldn't.
No. We'll get to that in a minute. But
well, no. I mean, a couple of maybe a month or two ago, they named a song after a Led Zeppelin song, but they couldn't afford the rights to it. So we're still in second season.
Yeah. Well,
but the only real trivia I got out of this one is Dean asked Sam, he's like, are you from Texas all of a sudden? And I guess they both actually grew up in Texas.
Yep. They're both from Texas, yep.
But other than that, yeah, it was a very simple episode.
It was a simple episode, and that's why I think I didn't like it. I think it's why it's like a 3.78 to me at most. But
I would definitely give it a 4. I thought it was solid.
I don't know. And hey, Harley, thanks for watching as always. But my episode, folks, and this one's kind of an interesting episode. It
Hmm.
was season 2, episode 20, and it's written by Ray L. Tucker and directed by Kripke himself. And it's What Is and What Should Never Be, as Scott hinted at. It's named after a Led Zeppelin song. Um, Another episode where they didn't play the fucking song, and we're doing a 7-part Led Zeppelin bracket on my music show, so I am deeply entwined in Zeppelin for the last couple months. But
Well, by season 5, they should have all the money they need for these songs. So,
tell me about it. So, and this episode I'm actually happy I got because it's a good episode. So this episode takes place around Joliet, Illinois, and in the first scene we see the Impala's plates change from the Kansas KAZ2Y5 plates to the Ohio CNK80Q3 plates because they said they had to change. They changed that. They had to change the plates because now the FBI is really looking for them. And you see Dean driving. He's talking to Sam on the phone, who's sitting in their motel room, and Sam's looking at through the hotel curtains. And he says, "There's a cop outside." They're all paranoid now. Dean keeps telling them nothing to worry about since they ditched the Impala's plates and all the credit cards. Sam's not so sure. He had the idea of a life of a fugitive in mind, but he asked Dean if he found anything. Dean basically scoffs at him, saying that he's been sifting through 50 miles of real estate. And Sam goes back to a bunch of books he has opened, and he tells Dean that he figured out they're hunting a gin. Which this is a cool episode because it's the first. I'm pretty sure it's the first gin episode. I think they've been mentioned before, but we never actually had
hmm
one yet. And Dean gets all happy. He's like, if he if he thinks if the freaking genie can actually grant wishes. And Sam goes to the Quran where while and starts reading it while Dean starts musing about how Genie from As I Dream of Genie is higher than Samantha from Bewitched, which is true. But and I mean I think it's true at least. But Sam tells him that the gins usually flare up in ruins, the bigger the better, and Dean remembers a place a few miles back and ignoring the fact that Sam wants him to pick him up first for safety, he hangs up and has a serious expression on his face as he goes back to the ruins. And Dean goes. We see Dean walking through what basically looks like a warehouse. He has a flashlight and a blood-tipped knife in the other. He's moving through it, and suddenly, as if he heard something behind him, he turns around, sees nothing. But as he continues to go through the warehouse, we see the figure of a Jin hiding in the shadows. It gets to jump on Dean and slams him against the wall, one hand on his throat, causing him to drop the knife. And as Dean struggles against the grip of the Jinn, it raises its free hand, and an electric light that's bluish in color bounces and crackles along its palm and fingers. It presses its hand on Dean's forehead, and Dean gasps as his eyes roll up and the screen goes black. And we we are all of a sudden in a house, and it's From Hell It Came, a classic movie, is playing in black and white on the TV next to a bed. Dean sits up shirtless for all the ladies out there. He's confused. He's confused and not knowing what the hell's going on. He sees a naked, dark-haired woman sleeping next to him, and he stumbles out, fully dressed somehow, into a living room and digs out his cell phone to call his brother. Sam acts like he never hears from Dean and is surprised to actually hear him calling. And Dean doesn't even notice, but he tells Sam that he doesn't know where he is and that the Jinn attacked him. Sam asks him if he's been drinking, and Dean tries reminding him of the hunt they're on. Doesn't put a hand on him, and he woke up next to some hot chick. Sam asks him if he means Carmen, and Dean is really confused by that. Sam tells Dean it's late, go back to sleep. He'll see him in the morning and hangs up on Dean while Dean's still trying to get words out. Sam sets the phone down, and we see a book get picked up by him and that he was reading called Criminal Law and Procedure. Dean is freaking out more. He begins to look around the room. He sees a bunch of mail on the nearby table, and he mutters, "What the hell?" as he sees they're addressed to Carmen and him as well, with a Lawrence, Kansas address, which for those who haven't been paying attention, that's where they're from, originally in the show. And at that point, Carmen emerges from the bedroom, sleepy and wondering why he's awake. He makes up an excuse and promises to join her in a minute. And she tells him basically, like, I will fuck you back to sleep. Get in the bedroom. Me. But she believes him, so she kisses him and goes back to the bedroom. He looks around the living room at all the pictures of the two of them together, and across the room he sees the picture and another, and he can't believe it. He examines the picture, drops it, and tears out the room. We have no idea why. We see
Dun dun dun.
we see the Impala pulling up to a house, and a house we should all recognize. And Dean runs up to the door and rings the bell. It opens, and his mother, Mary Winchester, is standing there looking sleepy and wrapping a robe around herself. He can't believe it, and he just says, "Mom," and she says, "Are you okay?" And he says, "I don't know." So he goes in the house with her, and as she's walking in the living room with him, she says that Carmen called, worried because he had just run out of the house. He asks his mom to prove who she is by asking what she used to tell him before she put him in bed when he was a kid, and with she says that she would always tell them that angels were watching over him, which, as we all know, that passed the test. And Dean hugs her and can't believe that his mom's alive again. And he looks around the pictures. He discovers that John once belonged to a softball team, but she also finds out that John died in his sleep of a stroke earlier that year. His mom also thinks he's been drinking. Apparently, that's a theme here.
Well,
And
that's
she
because
said,
he's like, that's good.
and
I
she said
thought
she's
that
gonna
was
call.
funny.
She says she's gonna call Carmen to get him. And Dean says he's as sober as a judge and says he wants to stay there. He sits on the couch as Mary touches his cheek and kisses his forehead. He relaxes for the first time since many episodes ago. And he sleeps on the couch, waking up the following morning. And the first thing on his mind is Sam. Calling him, he reaches his cell phone. And Dean then heads to the University of Kansas and talks his way to an anthropology professor's office to get more clues in the gin. When he asks the professor if the gin can really grant wishes, the professor assumes he's been drinking, but once again, the theme's there. And Dean confesses everybody's been asking that lately, but the answer is no. He finds out that mythology states that gin could grant wishes, and wondering what if it is true, if it is it for the gin. And even though the professor basically tells him, like, yeah, it's mythology, buddy. It's mythology. Stop thinking it's real. But Dean heads out back out to the street. He goes to the Impala's trunk, which is empty except for a few bits and pieces. And he says to the car, "Who'd have thought it, baby? We're civilians." Before he shuts the trunk and he catches the sight of a out of place young girl in a white dress. He starts to get close to her and nearly gets run over by a car. But when he looks back at her, she's gone. We go back to his mama's house and he's inhaling what he claims to be the best sandwich ever.
It did
Because
look like a good sandwich.
and he's talking to his mom, who was wondering why he isn't at work at the garage. Dean said he had the day off, and he gets to look at the window, offering to mow the lawn, and more than a little happy about the fact that our son actually wants to do chores. Mary teases that he's acting as if he hasn't mowed the lawn a day in his life, which he really hasn't.
And you can tell that from the clips of him mowing the lawn.
Yeah, I was gonna say, obviously unsure as to the proper handling and steering of a lawnmower. He goes back and forth mowing the lawn from the yard gnome, waving to the neighbors and very nearly whistling with happiness as Joey Ramone's Wonderful World plays, accompanying him to it. And when he finishes, he sits on the front steps having a beer when Sam and Jess pull up. He's happy to see them, of course, and Jess in particular, as she is live. And he runs up to greet them. He wraps Jessica in a fierce hug until she guesses she can't breathe. He's happy to see Sam and see him and Jess together. And Sam also thinks that Dean's been drinking. And this time it's hard to deny it. This time he can't deny it because he has a beer in his freaking hand. But Dean can't understand why Sam is so standoffish. And he wonders why they're there. And Sam asks with obvious exasperation if Dean's forgotten his mom's birthday again. So we fast forward to the family in a fancy restaurant. And they're all celebrating Mary's birthday, and dinner is served, and Carmen proves how well she knows Dean when she leans over and asks if he wants to go for cheeseburgers later as he stares in horror at a dinner that is better dressed than he is. And he says, "Oh God, yes," and smiles at her. And Sam and Jessica announce they're engaged at the dinner, making Mary very happy. And Dean tells Sam that he is really glad that he's happy. All of a sudden, he catches sight, though, of the girl in white again across the restaurant. He pushes past Sam and goes across the restaurant looking for wanting to get close to her. But by the time he gets to her, she's gone again. And his whole family's looking at him like, "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?" When they get back to the Winchester house, Mary goes to bed, and Sam suggests that he and Jessica do the same thing. Dean wants to go out and celebrate more, but Sam says, like, tells the ladies, like, the brothers need to talk for a minute. He pulls Dean aside, reveals what they always everyone Dean up to this point that they don't get along. I think he even says, like, this is the first time we talked in years,
Well,
and
he
that they're
goes
not.
on to say that fucking Dean had slept with Sam's prom date at the prom.
I was gonna get
So,
there, motherfucker. I was gonna get there.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but Sam says that Dean stole his ATM card, stole his girlfriend, slept with her on prom night. Sam says he's not mad about it anymore, but he doesn't expect Dean to change. He doesn't really want to have anything to do with him. And Sam leaves the room, and Dean just sits there looking all pouty and sad. We fast forward to a house, and Dean's sitting there in his flannel shirt and jeans. His wife brings him his favorite brand of beer, El Sol, and he tells her that he's upset that he and Sam don't get along. Carmen says they just don't know each other, and Dean feels like he's been given a second chance, but he's not going to waste it. He's going to fix this thing with Sammy, which at one point in the episode, Sam says, "Why do you keep calling me Sammy?" But yeah, Dean and Carmen do a little making out, and Carmen says that he can't do it to her. She has to go to work, and she shortly afterwards appears in her scrubs, which nurses, and so Dean's somewhat impressed with himself that he's respectful enough to date a nurse. He tells her goodbye and goes back on the couch to hang out for the night until he sees a report on the news about the anniversary of the crash of United Britannia Flight 424, and Dean mutters to himself as he sees it, "We stopped that crash." And then he goes to the computer and he discovers that everyone he, Sam, and John has saved from evil all died, all of them. And he looks up from the computer for a second, sees the girl in white in the corner of his eyes, and he goes to follow her. He ends up back in his bedroom where he's shaken by the sight of two decaying, emaciated skeletons hanging by the wrists in his closet. He sees the girl once more before both she and the skeletons vanish, leaving him trembling. He goes to the cemetery and is staring at his dad's tombstone, and he gives a nice little speech of all of them, everyone that you saved, everyone Sammy and I saved, they're all dead. And there's this woman that's haunting me. I don't know why. I don't know what the connection is. Not yet, anyway. It's like my old life is coming after me or something. Like it doesn't want me to be happy. Of course, I know what you would say. Well, not the you that plays softball, but you'd say go hug the gin. It put you here, it can put you back. Your happiness or all those people's lives, no contest. Right? But why? Why is it my job to save these people? Why do I have to be some kind of hero? What about us, huh? What? Mom's not supposed to live her life? Sammy's not supposed to get married? Why do we have to sacrifice everything, Dad? Which, I mean, it's true. Like if you think about it, that's really like the real question of the whole show is why do they have to do this and why can't somebody else? But we find out later why. But thunder starts crashing in the sky, and Dean just says, "It's yeah," because he thinks the thunder's his father, and he wipes the tears from his face, walks out of the cemetery, and Sam wakes up in his house or in his mom's house next to Jessica. Grabbing a bat, he creeps downstairs and confronts a crouching figure bent over Mary's china cabinet. It, the figure disarms Sam, sweeps him off his feet, and plants him firmly on the floor, one hand on his chest. Sam looks up and realizes it's Dean, which is a nice little homage back to the original episode of the show, the first ever episode of the show. The
Yeah.
same exact sequence. Sam wants to know what Dean's doing skulking around the dark, and Dean makes up a story that he owes money to a bookie and was going to pawn some of his mom's silver. He takes one knife, slips it in his pocket, and apologizes to Sam for everything that happened between them over the years, and asks his brother to tell their mom that he loves her, and then he starts to leave. He stops at the front door, he looks around one last time, and walks away. We see Dean sitting in the car, and all of a sudden Sam jumps in the passenger seat. And Dean tells him to get out of the car. Sam says, "Whatever stupid thing you're about to do, you're not doing it alone," and that's that. With with that, Sam raises his eyebrows and says, "So there. I don't understand." Dean says, "Why are you doing this?" Sam says, "Because you're still my brother," and Dean basically calls him a little bitch. And Sam says, "What do you call me a bitch for?" And Dean just says, "You're supposed to say jerk." And Sam's confused by this, but Dean just says, "Never mind," and throws his car into gear. And Sam wants answers on the way to where they're going. Dean doesn't want to give him answers for obvious reasons. And that's when Sam discovers a plastic cup full of lamb's blood. He pulls out a cell phone, and Dean removes the phone from Sam's fingers, tosses it out the window. He tells his brother that he's not crazy, that there are bad guys out there, and that it's their job to get rid of them. Sam doesn't believe him, and he's a little scared. But Sam is sleeping and wakes up when Dean stops the Impala in front of the Jin's lair. He wants to know where they are, but Dean just says they're not in Kansas anymore, in a nice Wizard of Oz line. He follows his brother through an abandoned warehouse, and he follows basically the same path Dean followed earlier that night. Dean has a silver knife soaked in lamb's blood and is on high alert. Sam's freaking out. He tells Sam to stay behind him and stay quiet. And Sam slides his eyes around and he expects the boogeyman to jump at them any moment. They turn a corner, and where Dean was initially attacked, to find the two dangling skeletons from Dean's closet. They stare hard. Dean sees an empty hospital blood bag still hooked up to the neck of one of those skeletons. Dean sees the girl in white, but that he's been seeing all around town. He moans and asks in a weak voice for her dad. Before he can do anything, the Jinn shows up. The Jinn uses its electric blue light of which granting him sleep on the girl, subduing her, then drinks some of the blood from the bag attached to her jugular. Dean manages to get Sam behind some stairs, but when Sam sees it, he lets out a gasp. The Jinn turns around and approaches, but Dean gets him out of the danger, and as the Jinn leaves, Dean approaches the girl, realizing she hadn't known where she was, and she thought she was with her dad. Sam's begging that they leave. Dean's starting to get it. He's slammed by a distorting flash from himself, hanging that red run by his wrist, pale, dying, with his blood being slowly drained from him to provide sustenance to the Jinn. Sam promises Dean that if he believes, he will believe anything if they can just go. Dean knows he's not going to believe regardless. He lifts the knife. He scares his already terrified brother further by raising it toward his own chest, declaring, "Die in your dreams, you wake up, right?" And Sam yells, "Wait!" But it doesn't work. Dean plunges the knife forward when Mary's voice stops him. Dean looks to the side, sees his mother walking towards him, not the mother from the birthday dinner, but the Mary from his memory with her white nightgown on from the night she died. And Sam asks, "Why do you have to keep digging?" Dean's eyes look at him kind of in shock, but also disappointed. And Carmen comes up behind him like, "Why couldn't you just left well enough alone?" Jessica appears, and Sam gently argues, "You were happy." Dean says the number was real, but he is slowly listening to Jess saying, "You wouldn't have to worry about Sam anymore." Carmen saying, "We could have a family of our own," and his mom saying, "Get some rest." But Dean knows if he chooses to stay, to live inside with his happiness, he'll be dead in a matter of days, even though it will feel like years to him. He listens to them, wanting the rest, wanting all of it, but he knows he has to do what's right. He looks directly at Sam, whispers, "I'm sorry," and stabs himself in the fucking chest in a very metal scene. We jump back to reality in the Jin's lair. Sam yells Dean, and because he sees his brother hanging there, pale and still by the wrist, he launches himself over to Dean, unsure of where a touch that won't hurt him more. He begs Dean to wake up. He finally wakes up Dean, who just he says very weakly, "ATM," followed by, "There's no place like home." You gotta love that they stick with the same movie references throughout the whole episode. But Sam takes
They
the
were in
off.
Kansas.
Yeah, Sam removes the needle from his brother's neck, and he said he thought he lost him for a second there. Dean tells him that he almost did. Sam begins to come down, and that's when Dean sees the Jinn lunging at Sam. So he calls out a warning. Dean begins to haul on his still-bound wrist while Sam struggles with the Jinn, getting knocked around, getting the shit kicked out of him in the process, basically. Sam's pinned to the stairs, and the Jinn's about to touch him with the same wish fulfillment hand. But suddenly the Jinn arches his back in pain and shock. Sam looks up to see Dean standing behind him, twisting the knife in his back to finish the job. But they look at each other to make sure they're okay, and they head back to the girl in white, where Dean discovers that she is still alive and whispers to Sam help to cut her down. He catches the girl and whispers that they're going to get her out of there, get her safe. They go back to the motel, and Sam's on the phone with the hospital, and they find out the girl is going to be okay. Dean's looking through a magazine that features an ad for El Sol, his favorite beer, in which Carmen is smiling up at him. So apparently that's where all of it was in his head from.
he dreamed himself a model.
Of course he did. Sam's in the other bed and asks if Dean's okay. Dean basically tells him what he's seen in the alternate reality. And what he wished for, but what he hadn't had. He said he had mom alive, but he and Sam never gone hunting, so they never learned how to be brothers. Sam looks at Dean closely and says, "Yeah, well, I'm glad we do, and I'm glad you dug yourself out, Dean. Most people would never have had the strength. They would have just stayed." Dean's unconvinced of the wisdom of his actions. He says, "Yeah, lucky me. I gotta tell you though, man, you had Jessica. Mom was gonna have grandkids." And he goes to his room, and the dresser looks back at Sam, and Sam argues it wasn't real. Dean says, "I know, but I wanted to stay. I wanted to stay so bad. I mean, ever since Dad, all I can think about is how much this job's cost us. We've lost so much, and we sacrificed so much." In what Malachi would call a reggae moment. But
Mm-hmm.
Sam finishes the episode by saying, "But people are alive because of you. It's worth it, Dean. It is. It's not fair, and you know it hurts like hell, but it's worth it." And the brothers just stare at each other in a very gay way, and the screen fades to black. But
I'd give this one a 4.
yeah, I'd give it about a 4. I'd say, yeah, I'll give it a 4 too. It was cool because of the gin. That's the main thing. But uh, it's funny because this actually is a storyline that comes through many, many seasons later in some way. So we'll get to that eventually.
I think what's cool about the jinn lore is like the holy men of the Muslim religion. They actually memorize the entire Quran,
Yep.
because they believe that jinn can actually change the fucking words in the Quran.
Yeah.
I mean, that's devotion, dude. The Quran's a pretty big fucking book to memorize the whole fucking thing. Pretty
Yeah, it is.
crazy.
And the one cool thing is that in this show, there's an awesome song played by Leonard Skinner called Saturday Night Special. But they do not play the Led Zeppelin song it's named after, fucking goddamn it, and that's an amazing Led Zeppelin song. But what is and what should never
Yeah,
be.
you would think that Saturday Night Special would cost as much as the Led Zeppelin song, right? Like,
Leonard Skinner is not fucking Led Zeppelin, and we all know Robert Plant's greedy. So
dude, they're all on every classic rock radio
yeah,
station in the world.
but
Like,
Leonard Skinner's cool. Robert Plant's greedy as fuck. But
I
and
guess.
trust me, he is. But well, folks, we talked about our 2 episodes for this week, which means next week you have the 2-parter season finale. So come back for
Should
that
be some
one.
continuity.
Oh, there'll be a lot of continuity. I saw what episode it is kind of slightly, and I'm like, oh, these episodes, fuck yeah. It's about to get a little yellow in this shit, folks. But and then of course in 2 weeks come back for the beginning of season 3, and where that leads, we don't know just yet, but we'll tell you next week. Kind of a hint at it, probably. But until
Season
then,
3 is the best
season 3,
season.
we're getting closer and closer, folks. I mean, nowhere near the end, but we're getting closer and closer to it. So slowly but surely. Well, that's gonna do it for me, Malachi, tonight. We'll see you next week, everybody. Have a good one.
Take it easy.